The airport buzzed with the usual commotion, voices blending into an unintelligible hum, announcements crackling over the intercom, and the rhythmic thudding of hurried footsteps. Emma Carter, a young woman with a backpack slung over her shoulder, stood by the baggage carousel, her eyes scanning for her suitcase. Her expression revealed a mix of exhaustion and relief. After weeks of stretching every penny during her dream trip to Europe, she was finally back home. Tomorrow was a big day for Emma. She was starting her new job, and everything needed to be perfect. She adjusted the strap on her worn backpack and sighed, determined to grab her suitcase and head home to rest. Then she spotted it. A black, hard-shell suitcase rolling towards her. Without hesitation, she pulled it off the conveyor belt and wheeled it away. At the other end of the baggage carousel, Lucas Gray, a man with a sharp, tailored appearance, watched the suitcases emerge. Lucas, a self-made tech entrepreneur and CEO of Gray Tech, had just returned from a long business trip overseas. His calm demeanor masked a man who carried the weight of a billion-dollar empire. As he reached for his suitcase, identical to Emma's, he realized it was nowhere to be found. His brow furrowed as he picked up a bag with a luggage tag reading, Emma Carter. Little did he know, this small mix-up was about to change everything. Emma pulled the suitcase off the carousel with a small sense of relief. The long journey had left her utterly exhausted, and all she wanted now was to get home, fall into bed, and recharge for her first day at her new job. The suitcase looked exactly like hers, black, sturdy, and unremarkable. Without a second thought, she wheeled it away, completely unaware she had grabbed someone else's luggage. A few feet away, Lucas Gray stood with his hands tucked in the pockets of his tailored blazer, his calm eyes scanning the carousel. He was a man who had mastered the art of composure, an essential skill when running a tech giant like Gray Tech. But as he spotted what he thought was his suitcase rolling by, something felt off. Reaching out, Lucas grabbed the black suitcase, but the weight felt wrong. It was lighter, and the zipper seemed unfamiliar. He checked the luggage tag attached to the handle, Emma Carter. His brow furrowed as he stared at the name. At first, Lucas frowned, slightly annoyed. This mix-up was the last thing he needed after a long trip. But as he unzipped the suitcase and found neatly folded casual clothes, his frustration melted into curiosity. Tucked into one of the side pockets was a travel journal adorned with colorful stickers from cities across Europe. Flipping through it, Lucas saw hand-drawn sketches of landmarks, notes about local cuisine, and a bucket list with entries like, "See the Eiffel Tower at sunset and try authentic Italian gelato." He smirked, amused by the personality these pages revealed. Pulling out his phone, he dialed the number listed on the luggage tag. Outside the airport, Emma was enjoying the cool breeze on her face when her phone buzzed in her pocket. Frowning at the unfamiliar number, she answered. "Hello?" A calm, deep voice replied, "Hi, I think there's been a mix-up. You took my suitcase." Emma felt her heart sink as she listened to the voice on the phone. She glanced down at the suitcase she had taken, a sinking feeling washing over her. "Oh no," she whispered. "Did I really grab the wrong one?" "Dead serious," the man replied, a trace of amusement in his tone. "I'm holding your suitcase right now." Emma immediately apologized, explaining how identical the bags looked. After a brief exchange, they agreed to meet at a cafe in the terminal to swap their luggage. 10 minutes later, Emma stepped into the cafe, her eyes scanning the room until they landed on a quiet corner. Lucas Gray sat there, scrolling through his phone with an air of calm confidence. He wore a crisp white shirt and dark jeans, exuding an effortless poise that made Emma feel a little self-conscious. Taking a deep breath, she approached him and cleared her throat, feeling an odd mix of nervousness and intrigue. He seemed so effortlessly composed, unlike anyone she'd met before. "Lucas, right?" Lucas looked up, his lips curling into an easy smile. "Emma, you made it." Emma placed the suitcase between them, her expression apologetic. "Yeah, sorry again about the mix-up. I swear, they looked exactly the same." Lucas chuckled, leaning back in his chair. "No harm done, honestly. It was kind of refreshing. My life could use a little unexpected adventure." Emma raised an eyebrow, surprised by his relaxed attitude. "Really? Getting stuck with my overstuffed suitcase full of budget souvenirs is an adventure?" He smirked, his eyes twinkling with amusement. "Hey, those souvenirs say a lot about a person, you know." Emma shook her head, suppressing a laugh. Well, you're lucky I didn't take something valuable. Lucas raised an eyebrow, his grin widening. He would have been disappointed. Just boring business stuff in mine. They exchanged suitcases, and Emma quickly unzipped hers to check. Relief washed over her as she saw her travel journal and belongings intact. Lucas observed her closely, intrigued by the way she treated each item like it held deep meaning. "Your travel journal looked interesting," he said casually. "Lots of memories in there, I bet." Emma flushed slightly, offering a small, shy smile. It's full of little moments I didn't want to forget." Lucas rested his chin on his hand, his gaze softening. "I like that. Most people rush through life without noticing the details." They parted ways soon after, but the brief encounter left an impression neither could shake. In the weeks that followed, Emma and Lucas found themselves running into each other more often, sometimes at the cafe, other times at places that seemed almost too coincidental. Over time, Emma began to suspect that these chance encounters might not be entirely accidental, especially when Lucas always appeared with that easygoing smile, as if he had planned it all along. As their conversations grew deeper, Lucas found himself captivated by Emma's genuine outlook on life. She spoke with an honesty and warmth that stood out in his world of polished facades and calculated words. Emma opened up about her dream of opening a cozy little cafe, a space where people could pause, relax, and enjoy the small moments of life. But she admitted that saving enough money to make it happen was her biggest challenge. "Money's the hardest part," she sighed, her eyes drifting around the cafe they were sitting in. "I don't want to go into debt, but trying to save up with part-time jobs isn't exactly easy." Lucas listened intently, his focus unwavering. He shared that, despite owning everything most people dreamed of, wealth, fame, and success, he often felt isolated. "You never really know who cares about you for you, or who's just interested in what you can give them," Lucas admitted, a flicker of sadness passing through his eyes. Emma looked at him with sympathy, though she couldn't hide a touch of skepticism. To her, Lucas was just another finance guy with a good job. Hardworking, yes, but nothing particularly unique in the corporate world. "I bet your work's pretty stressful, huh?" she asked, trying to sound interested. Lucas smirked softly. "It has its moments, but I've gotten used to it. I'm guessing you're not exactly impressed by that." Emma grinned, her tone playful. "Not really, but you don't strike me as the type who gets rattled easily." Lucas chuckled at her candidness. There was something about Emma that felt refreshing. She wasn't trying to impress him, and she certainly didn't seem to care about titles or wealth. She was just herself, honest and unwavering in her beliefs. As they grew more comfortable around each other, a connection began to form, an invisible yet undeniable bond that seemed to bridge the gap between their very different worlds. One evening, after finishing her shift, Emma curled up on the couch with a cup of tea and her phone in hand. As she scrolled through social media and news articles, a headline suddenly caught her eye. "Lucas Gray, the young billionaire behind tech giant Graytech." Emma nearly dropped her tea. She opened the article, and there it was, Lucas's face smiling confidently in a perfectly tailored suit. The staggering numbers in the article made her head spin. Lucas Gray, CEO of Graytech, one of the world's leading tech companies and one of the youngest billionaires, with a jaw-dropping net worth. Shock quickly turned into doubt. He never said anything about this. Why hide it? Was everything we shared just some sort of game to him? But as she thought about how Lucas always listened, how he respected her dreams, and how he never once flaunted his wealth, her suspicion began to soften. Still, she knew she needed to confront him. The next day, Emma texted Lucas and asked to meet at their usual cafe. When Lucas walked in, his easygoing smile immediately faded when he saw the serious look on her face. "What's wrong?" he asked, taking a seat across from her. Emma placed her phone on the table, the screen displaying the article with his photo. "Lucas Gray, billionaire?" she said, her voice trembling between disbelief and frustration. "Was any of this real, or were you just playing some kind of game?" Lucas glanced at the article, then back at her, his expression sincere. "I wondered when you'd find out," he sighed. "I wasn't trying to keep it from you forever, Emma. I just wanted you to know me for who I am, not for my title or my bank account." Emma was quiet for a moment, her eyes searching his. "So, everything we talked about, every time we met, It was real? Lucas nodded firmly. Every single moment. Emma exhaled, her shoulders relaxing. A small smile crept onto her face. For a second there, I thought you were playing some sort of game with me. Lucas laughed, feigning shock. Emma, I might be a businessman, but I'm terrible at deception. They both laughed, and the tension between them began to dissolve. After their conversation at the cafe, Emma spent a few days reflecting on Lucas's offer. One evening, she decided to visit him at his apartment. Standing outside his door, Emma clasped her hands together and took a deep breath before knocking. Lucas opened the door, his face lighting up at the sight of her, though he quickly noticed the serious look in her eyes. I've thought about it, Emma began, stepping inside. I'm going to accept your offer. Lucas smiled, but before he could say anything, Emma held up a hand to stop him. But on one condition. What's the condition? Lucas asked, his gaze steady on hers. Emma looked at him directly, her voice firm with determination. I will run the cafe my way. I'll accept your investment, but all the decisions will be mine. I need to prove to myself that I can do this, not just to you, but to me. Lucas studied her for a moment, his smile growing wider. I wouldn't want it any other way, he said sincerely. I just want to support you in whatever way you're comfortable with. Emma let out a breath she hadn't realized she was holding, a wave of relief washing over her. Are you sure? No meddling at all? Lucas raised a hand solemnly. Scout's honor. In the weeks that followed, Emma threw herself into planning the cafe. Lucas, true to his word, provided the financial backing and offered advice when asked, but he never overstepped his boundaries. Gradually, Emma realized that not only was her independence intact, but there was also a comforting warmth in knowing she no longer had to carry everything alone. The grand opening of Emma's cafe arrived faster than she had imagined. Nestled on a bustling corner of the city, the cafe embodied the cozy, inviting atmosphere she had always dreamed of. The aroma of freshly brewed coffee, rustic wooden tables, and small hand-picked decorations showcased Emma's hard work and vision. Standing behind the counter, Emma smiled as she watched her first customers filter in. Pride swelled in her chest. This was her dream, brought to life through determination and effort. But as she glanced around the cafe, she couldn't help but notice Lucas wasn't there yet. A few hours later, as Emma was wiping down a table, the bell above the door jingled. She looked up to see Lucas walking in, accompanied by a small group of friends she didn't recognize. Lucas grinned playfully. Surprise, he said. I couldn't miss your big day. Emma was stunned as Lucas's friends quickly ordered drinks, filling the cafe with laughter and lively chatter. She turned to Lucas, her voice soft with emotion. Thank you, she whispered. Lucas stepped closer, taking her hand in his. His eyes shone with pride. I told you you could do it, and you did. That evening, as the cafe quieted down, Emma and Lucas sat together at a corner table, watching the warm glow of the lights reflect on the glass. Emma sighed, a deep sense of contentment washing over her. I used to think success meant doing everything on my own, she said softly, but now I realize sharing it with someone you trust makes it so much better. Lucas held her hand, his smile gentle. I think that's the secret to life, Emma, finding the right person to share it with. Emma glanced around the cafe, her heart full. She squeezed Lucas's hand, her smile widening. We make a pretty good team, she said. Lucas chuckled. The best. They sat there in peaceful silence, knowing this was just the beginning of a new chapter, one filled with hope, love, and endless possibilities. One late afternoon, as the cafe was bathed in the warm glow of sunset, Lucas walked in looking unusually thoughtful. Emma was wiping down the counter and smiled as she saw him, but something about his demeanor caught her attention. Instead of sitting at their usual table or ordering his regular coffee, Lucas walked straight to her, took her hand, and said, Do you have some time? I want to take you somewhere. Curious but unable to resist his warm gaze, Emma nodded. Lucas led her to a small garden by the riverbank, where fairy lights sparkled in the trees. A small table had been set up with flowers and candles, and Emma let out a soft laugh. Lucas, what is this? Lucas smiled, his eyes filled with the familiar sincerity Emma had come to adore. He pulled out a chair for her before kneeling down and taking out a small velvet box from his pocket. Emma Carter, he began, his voice steady but carrying a hint of nervousness as he held the box tightly in his hand. I never thought a simple mix-up at the airport could change my life forever. My heart's racing right now, but it's because I know I can't let another day go by without asking you this. But then you came into it bringing your honesty, resilience, and warmth. You've made me see the world differently, and you've made me want to be a better person every single day. I can't imagine my life without you. He opened the box, revealing a simple yet elegant ring that perfectly matched Emma's style. So today I'm asking, will you turn this adventure into forever? Will you marry me? Emma froze, her eyes welling with tears as she looked at him. Then she burst into laughter, remembering the suitcase mix-up that brought them here, and nodded. Yes, Lucas, I will. A few months later, on a sunny spring day, Emma and Lucas stood side by side during a simple yet love-filled outdoor ceremony. Friends and family gathered to celebrate the couple. As Lucas placed the ring on Emma's finger, he leaned in and whispered, I think we owe that suitcase a thank you. Emma laughed, whispering back, just don't mix up the wedding rings this time. The two burst into laughter, their happiness radiating through the crowd. The ceremony ended with a dance under twinkling lights, and as they swayed together, they knew this was just the beginning of their journey together.